I don't have like a cold open planned. I
That's
referenced that
fine.
we had cold opens last time. We don't need cold opens.
No, we don't, and we probably won't have cold opens depending on the way this is edited.
Wasting away again, away again. Wasting away again, away again. Wasting away again. And Margarita the bell. It's my own damn fault.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Disc Choreography, Wasting Away 2026. I'm Kyle.
I'm Tom. Hello.
Tom, what album are we doing this week?
Today we are talking about 1974's Living and Dying at Three-Quarters Time. The second album in Jimmy Buffett's quote-unquote Key West phase.
That is his fourth album overall. This is the second one on ABC Dunhill. This is also the album that, up to this point, gets the most money put into its promotion. So he didn't have really any money put into the promotion for his first two albums. I mean, the second one didn't even come out after he recorded it. And then last album, he was finally on ABC Dunhill. They put more money into it because it was, a major label. This time, there is something that happens between the last album and this album contextually that causes ABC Dunhill to start promoting this album more, which is that beloved singer-songwriter Jim Croce died in a plane crash in September of 1973. He was also on ABC Dunhill, and so the label started promoting putting more money into Jimmy Buffett's next album to promote him as a replacement singer-songwriter for Jim Croce fans.
That's a very interesting notion for a number of reasons. Like, I'm not a massive fan of Jim Croce. He's recorded a number of songs that I like quite a lot, but I'm not like a diehard Jim Croce fan. I generally think of him as a higher quality songwriter than Jimmy.
Yeah, I mean, you also have to remember he had a much shorter songwriting. He only had 4 or 5 albums before he died, and then one posthumous album. I mean, if you just took the core, I think it's probably about the same core 6 albums from Jimmy Buffett's Key West phase, and looked at them in totem, they might work out to about the same. They might not. That might be high praise for Jimmy Buffett and an insult
Underselling
to Jim Croce
a little bit. Yeah,
I really like Jim Croce. His song "Age" is one of my favorite songs of all time. It makes me tear up. He's touring at this point. He did tour throughout '73, and between that and ABC Dunhill putting more promotional effort into this album, it was bound to be bigger than the last album, and it was.
Really quick though, Kyle, what are you listening to this week that's not Jimmy?
I am listening to not much else.
Yeah,
it's busy during the holidays.
I've been listening to largely. I've seen A Muppet Christmas Carol a couple of times because it's my partner Eliza's favorite Christmas movie, and I think probably the best recorded version of A Christmas Carol. So I've been listening to its soundtrack a little bit outside of watching the movie because it's a good soundtrack.
Interesting, yeah. So it's coming up on Christmas. It's a little behind the scenes. It's December 19th when we're recording this. Phil Oakes' 85th, what would have been his 85th birthday. We're both fans of Phil Oakes.
We are.
And I should have listened to some of him this morning, but I was listening to this album instead. So that's probably what I'll listen to after we're done recording this, because I really like Phil Oakes. What I've been listening to lately is, since it's the Christmas season, there's been a lot of Christmas music going on, downstairs as the other people in my household are baking Christmas cookies and such. And I've been up here editing the multiple different vocational projects I had that are making me zero money. And I think maybe 2 days ago, I finally actually got the free time to sit down and say, okay, it's the start of the Christmas season for me. I'm going to go listen to my traditional first Christmas song of the season, which is Bob Dylan's cover of Must Be Santa, which is insane.
I'm not familiar with this one.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's got a incredibly prominent accordion on it. The music video you have to watch because it's Bob Dylan in a wig, like a long gray hair, like straight hair wig and a Santa hat, walking around just being Bob Dylan while this insane Christmas party descends into chaos with like brawls and glasses breaking through windows, and Santa Claus shows up at the end, and he and Bob Dylan like see each other and like shake their heads at watching the fighting. And the bridge of the song is naming all of the reindeer and a bunch of U.S. presidents: Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Nixon, Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Nixon, Carter, Reagan, Bush, and Clinton. That's the bridge.
That sounds completely fucking insane.
Yeah, so Bob Dylan did and Jimmy Buffett does 2 Christmas albums that we'll get to later. Not at Christmas time, unfortunately for us.
Yeah, of course, Jimmy Buffett's birthday is on Christmas Day. So.
Yes, yeah. No, Bob Dylan did a Christmas album in 2009 called Christmas in the Heart. That is the only song worth listening to on the album. The rest of them are like traditional, like, they're all the traditional sounding Christmas carols and like the traditional instrumentation, but it's Bob Dylan's voice. So,
yeah,
I'm a big fan of Bob Dylan. I don't care for that album.
I guess I've also been listening to, Eliza has a vinyl copy of John Denver and the Muppets doing Christmas music.
It sounds more enjoyable.
It's honestly a very fun album.
Yeah.
It's good. John Denver is like one of those people who is like, there's some people who perform with the Muppets and it's like they don't really know what they're doing. John Denver is one of the people who knows what he's doing when he performs with the Muppets. So,
right. Yeah.
Anyway, let's get into it. Living and Dying in 3/4 time. This album starts with a song I don't like very much, which is Pencil Thin Mustache.
I agree with that. I also do not like this song very much. So, first of all, I mean, musically, he's still doing a country sing. This is like, it's like a Western swing thing.
Yeah.
He's not doing a tropic thing at all here. It's just more of your bog standard country. It's kind of straddling the line between the Nashville sound and the outlaw country stuff that he was doing on the last album. And there's a bit of each on this album. I think there's actually more Nashville sound on this album than the last album, which I think is a little weird. We'll get into when we get into those songs.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about it. This song, it's definitely like kind of a novelty song. It's kind of funny. It's trying. It aims to evoke the same nostalgia, and I referenced last episode that I wanted to talk a little bit about this song in sort of comparison with They Don't Dance Like Carmen No More.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's sort of like a similar nostalgia for old cinema, right? Is what's going on here. Obviously, Pencil Thin Mustache is a little bit more about like sort of like an Errol Flynn type, I guess. But I think because this song is trying to be sort of funny and silly about it instead of melancholic, it really hits much worse for me. I don't know if it's a very strong album opener either. So
this is, I mean, let me get ahead of the title of the podcast for a second. We are historians. This is a historiographical podcast where we're trying to contextualize Jimmy Buffett for ourselves and for the listener, mostly ourselves, I think. It is a waste of time to discuss the historical context of all of these references. And I think of it like in comparison to like We Didn't Start the Fire by Billy Joel. And it's because and I like We Didn't Start the Fire. I do not like this song. It's because they're lyrical content, but they're not the substance of the song. And at least in We Didn't Start the Fire, there is actually like a message in, the chorus that's not just listing a bunch of things that happen to essentially say, hey, what a crazy 40 years it's been in the Cold War, sort of thing.
I am not really a We Didn't Start the Fire enjoyer, but I do agree with you that like this is like definitely like there's a similar sort of just flood of references, and Didn't Start the Fire is much better than this song at that.
Yeah,
there's not much substance to it. What substance there is, I don't really like.
So I think this is, and I was also thinking about this in the context of like comparison with We Didn't Start the Fire. This is a song that becomes more difficult to connect with the further away from all of these dated references you are. I personally dislike these types of songs that box in their connecting audience, and I think that has a big effect on the kind of audience Buffett's going to cultivate later in his career, because it's impossible for you and me to connect to this song the way that somebody who's Jimmy's age and remembers all of these as they were growing up would be able to. But the other part of this is like, it's different than We Didn't Start the Fire in that We Didn't Start the Fire's references are timeless in the way that they're presented because they're not saying, hey, remember this. This is a list of all the shit that happened. And historically, you can go back and remember what a crazy time we've always been living in.
It's also that, like, again, I'm not a big enjoyer of We Didn't Start the Fire, but I can recognize its merits. And one of its merits is that, like, the actual things being listed in We Didn't Start the Fire are not necessarily as important as, like, being this, like, relentless onslaught of things.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. That is the point. That is the message of the song. Is that it's always been a relentless onslaught of shit happening in the world. I also think it actually does a pretty good job at not being too US-centric in the way that it presents events happening around the world. We could save that for if we ever do a Billy Joel podcast, which my mother would love. She would listen to that. She's not going to listen to this.
My mom probably will listen to this. She's a big Jimmy Buffett fan. Just to
shout out to Tom's mom.
I stole her copy of Son of a Sailor. It's the only Jimmy Buffett album I currently own on vinyl.
Oh, okay.
So, stole is a strong term. She didn't have to let me take it. She just let me take it, and then she started saying I stole it. I want to talk about your point that you just made about sort of not connecting to these references, because I feel like Pencil Thin Mustache, again, it is sort of evoking the same, like, era of cinema as They Don't Dance Like Carmen No More. You know?
Yeah.
And I think that They Don't Dance Like Carmen No More succeeds where Pencil Thin Mustache fails, in part because, like, Pencil Thin Mustache almost has, like, a Family Guy-esque approach to the reference, where the reference is the point.
Yeah.
But They Don't Dance Like Carmen No More actually has, like, an emotional core to it, I think, that makes it so, like, even though I'm not, like, familiar with Carmen's films, that song still hits for me.
Exactly.
And I think it's because there's a point to it that's not just like, oh man, remember Errol Flynn?
Well, I think it's also like the framing of it too, because like They Don't Dance Like Carmen No More. The way it is framed is like this guy feeling out of touch with modern times and being like, I remember this and I can't go back to this, and that makes me sad. Whereas this is literally just, remember this. And the thing is, no, Jimmy, I don't remember it. And anyone who wasn't born between, and it's good for him that it happens to be the baby boomer generation, the biggest audience any musical genre would ever have, demographics-wise, would remember that.
Have you ever seen the old video? It's a YouTube video by Demi Adejuyigbe, which is his like rejected Ready Player One theme song.
No.
It's just like the tune of Old MacDonald. It's just him listing like nerd monoculture references. He's like, do you remember all of that? We do. And then like the chorus to Old MacDonald plays without any lyrics over it.
Okay.
And then he starts saying like, remember Back to the Future? Remember Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Remember King Kong?
Right.
Like just that over and over again. This song feels almost like that as an actual song that was recorded and put on an album.
Yeah. So I don't. Have you consumed any of the media that he's referring to in this song?
I don't think so.
Like, I mean, I've seen some scenes from I Love Lucy. Ricky Ricardo.
I've seen this like some aspects of like this era of cinema. But like usually when I watch like pre-color movies, like the stuff that I'm watching is not really the stuff that Jimmy's watching.
No, but then of course, the other part of this is it's not just, it's also television. And
yeah, it's true.
Some of it is frankly quite poor television.
Yeah, I have a VHS copy of Mark of Zorro, and I think that's probably the closest I get.
Yeah. So let's talk about the concept of the novelty song.
Yeah.
I mentioned this a little last time insofar as Why Don't We Get Drunk in Screw is also classified sometimes as a novelty song. I don't think
Jimmy writes a lot of these.
I don't think it is a novelty song because I don't think it's much of a song at all with substance. The thing about this song is it also really doesn't have any substance, but it has enough lyrical content that you'd be like, well, maybe it is a novelty song because it is a novelty thing. But really, it's a nostalgia thing is all it is. So I don't know if I really like the idea of this being a novelty song because it gets the novelty part, but I don't think it's enough of the song part.
This is I kind of disagree. Like Pencil Thin Mustache is like a real song.
I get that there's like verses and choruses, but like there's literally no substance. I do think of a novelty song as maybe having some substance. To use a later example from the canon of Jimmy Buffett, I think Cheeseburger in Paradise is a novelty song because it has story behind it.
I think Pencil Thin Mustache does have like a story a little bit. It doesn't have a ton of substance, but I think it has enough that I would qualify it as a novelty song. But then again, I would also definitely qualify what Why Don't We Get Drunk, the novelty song.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to be a point where we agree to disagree, but I am going to bring up when we get to other novelty songs in his discography about whether or not you think it qualifies, because I think that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I have a very skewed definition. I think my definition of novelty song requires a bit more from the actual, I think total content of the song in order to actually qualify than what is usually required.
I feel like the thing is, and we talked about this a lot more on his first two albums, because obviously White Sport Coat and a Pink Crustacean had like mostly like songs that had like quite a lot of like substance to them.
Yeah.
But like Jimmy is just a songwriter who like on any given album, he has like, 3 or 4 songs that have nothing behind them. There's just kind of, there's music that's happening.
Yeah.
And it just kind of happens at you. And then you're like, wow, I'm going to not think about this anymore once this album's finished.
Exactly.
Pencil Thin Mustache is like almost like that, but because of the kind of nostalgia to folks, and because again, I do think that it has enough novelty to it that I think that like, and I would say, Why Don't We Get Drunk and Screw? But that one has substance that is, I think, kind of rough. But Pencil Thin Mustache is like, it has enough substance to it that it latches on to like a certain thing that is popular amongst, Parrot Head's, Jimmy Buffett's sort of fan base. And then it sort of takes off. It becomes larger than a lot of the other songs on this album that I think are much better than this one.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's that I find this song, I think it's inauthentically Jimmy to what he's been up to this point. Because if we remember, Jimmy started out as a hippie, right? And all of this, it's very, I don't know how familiar you are with the Beach Boys song Disney Girls 1957 by Bruce Johnston. It's very evocative, and which came out right at around the same time. I think it was 73 or 74. It's very evocative of remember the innocent times before, the tumult of the 60s. And very, very white-centric to say that.
Yeah, very much so.
2, I think it's a bit disingenuous to who he's been up to this point. To say, like, I still have the long hair, I still have the mustache, but I'm shedding the idea of the hippie thing to say, hey, remember when we were kids and things were fun and happy and we weren't thinking about like social issues or whether the government was doing anything to us or something. Like, it is kind of a reversal of that hippie persona to drive so hard home the like nostalgia in this song, the way it's presented.
Yeah, I guess I see that. I do see that.
Not the least of which is because some of the stuff that he mentions is kind of pretty low quality here. I don't know. I mean, I said at the beginning of this, it's a waste of time to discuss the historical context of all of these references because they're not really substantive to the song. He does mention, there is a line when he says, Rama of the Jungle was everyone's Bawana, and I want to know what that means because I'm not familiar with half of the words in that sentence. So Rama of the Jungle was a show that ran for 2 seasons from 1952 to 1954. It is like one of the most white man's burdeny shows I can think of ever being done. It is so pro-colonialist. So first of all, Ramar, R-A-M-A-R, is supposed to be a word in quote-unquote the native tongue of the show, which I think is a completely made-up word because I couldn't actually find a translation for it anywhere that meant this. It supposedly means white medicine man. So the main character of the show was this white doctor who goes to Africa. Bwana
Jesus Christ.
is the Swahili term for master. Now, it's going to get worse. The first season had 26 episodes. 13 of them take place in Africa. 13 of them take place in India.
Okay.
So there's a real conflation of Asia and Africa there, and also just a lot of white man's burdening in that show. It's like, this is what Jimmy remembers from his childhood, man. This is I think probably, I think it's probably And I don't think he notices. I don't think he realizes it. He probably went his entire life without realizing it. But this is definitely the most egregious reference to pro-colonialist or like white-centric views that he's had up to this point.
Pencil Thin Mustache.
I mean, just that line, I mean specifically.
Yeah, I think this is probably my least favorite song on the album. And unfortunately, we're going to hear it several more times, I think, over the course of this podcast. Because it becomes like a popular Buffett tune.
Yeah. I'm between this and another song for worst song on the album.
Yeah, I don't care about this song very much.
Yeah, I think
it's not very good. It's telling in a bad way.
Are we both agreed that side A is inferior to side B here?
I think so. Yes, I would say so. I think side B is much more interesting.
Yeah.
Except that there are two hits for me on side A. One of them is, I think, kind of predictable, and one of them is not. The first hit for me is actually the next song, Come Monday, which I've always liked.
See, I've never really connected with Come Monday, and I think it is because it's not that he's trashing California as a California native. as a native of the... Yeah, I know. As two guys who are native of the Bay Area.
Well, hold on. Native, quote unquote. We are not native.
I was born and raised in California.
We were both born and raised in California. Distinction.
Yeah. That is especially after the last discussion we had there on Pencil Thin Mustache. Yeah, it's good to point out. So I never really connected with this song. This is a song that is like totally saccharine love ballad. Like
it's very saccharine. Yeah.
This is bog standard Nashville sound. Which is weird because, like, his entire last album, there wasn't really any of that. It was doing the outlaw country thing, and then this is like exactly what you'd expect. Had like Chet Atkins had complete control over the way this album is, and it's the hit. It's the hit on the album. It hits number 30 on the Billboard, number 3 easy listing, and number 53 on the country charts.
I think the other thing that makes that really interesting is that one of the main themes on this album is Jimmy trashing Nashville. Like. He has a real chip on his shoulder on this album. Yeah. There's like 3 or 4 songs on it that are very explicitly about him just like full on beefing with Nashville.
Yeah. You can also draw a through line between this and My Lovely Lady from the last album.
Yeah.
Because both of them are I can't wait to get back to Florida.
Yeah. But like, you know, like the thing is that like the Nashville sound is like, if you're more familiar with it and you've listened to a ton of that stuff, it's probably really tiring. I happen to still kind of like a lot of that music. I like Dolly Parton's early stuff, for example. Yeah. Although Dolly is fire, obviously, because she's great.
Yeah.
But like this is an era of country music that like I don't seek it out all the time, but I don't hate it. And I think Come Monday is like a pretty strong example of it. However, something I want to bring up about this song, there's 2 things I want to bring up about the song. First of all, Pencil Thin Mustache is in 3/4 time. Come Monday is not in 3/4 time.
There's only one 3/4 time song on this album.
Is it Pencil Thin Mustache?
No. It's on side B.
Oh, okay. I didn't. We must have misheard when we were listening to this in the car the other night.
How familiar are you with time signatures, Tom?
I'm not a very academic music
person. Okay, so 3/4 time is a standard waltz.
That's what I thought. That's what I was thinking. So the one that's in 3/4 time is West Nashville Grand Ballroom gown, right? Yeah. We'll get to that one. The other thing I want to talk about in Come Monday is that this song, I think, and again, this might be a situation where like I am misidentifying vibraphone as steel drums. I think I am. I think this is vibraphone. This song has vibraphone on it.
Yeah. We can look at the. Let's see. This
vibraphone is mentioned on this. Yeah.
Yeah, the liner notes refer to it as the second Coral Reefer band, and
it's a little different in lineup.
Yeah, Farrell Morris plays the congas, vibes, and quote-unquote other little goodies.
Other little goodies. Yeah, so this song has the vibraphone on it. I think vibraphone sometimes like sits in for like it kind of has like that sort of vibe. Vibraphone sounds similar to steel drums to me. I could be totally off base here.
Yeah, well, I think once we get to the point that steel drums become a prominent feature, you'll start to hear the difference.
Probably, but like this is definitely the last album had vibes. It didn't have steel drums. This has vibes on it, for sure. And like it is interesting because like the last album had the vibes on it on one song, which was Cuban Crime of Passion. So that's like, you know, very Caribbean. It's like trying to be thematic, right?
Yeah.
This album, we'll talk about it more during, you know, the steel drum watch. This album starts to like the tropical musicality, the Caribbean musicality,
It's
starts
bleeding,
to just sort of show up.
It's bleeding into things that aren't strictly thematically Caribbean. Yeah. I get that because also
songs, but
I vibraphones. I don't think. I mean, I'm not big on the Nashville sound. I'm not an expert on it. I don't think anything like vibraphones and marimbas or things like that. Definitely not like a guiro or something. And congas. I don't think those are indicative. Like that. That's not normal instrumentation for anything going on in Nashville specifically at the time. So that is interesting. So I did look up all of Jimmy Buffett's tour dates because I wanted to see if I could nail down exactly when he wrote this song. So first of all, I want to mention that Jimmy Buffett is a liar. He did not spend 4 lonely days in the. Well, actually, I don't know if he only spent 4 lonely days. Maybe he was with other people on the other days. He spent at least 6 days in LA during the 73 tour because he appeared at the Troubadour from August 21st to August 26th. Performed each of those 6 days. Then he headed up to.
At some point went to San Francisco.
Well, he headed up to San Anselmo, which you and I know that's not San Francisco proper. It is the Bay Area. It's up in Marin. And it was indeed for the Labor Day weekend show because Labor Day was Monday, September 3rd, 1973. He opened for Country Joe McDonald from August 31st to September 2nd, 1973.
Oh, okay.
And his next show after September 2nd was September 7th, 1973. He was back in Miami. So I'm presuming that we know exactly when this song was written. It's on the trip between August 26th and August 31st.
I guess so.
Now, he also mentions that night in Montana. There are no known dates of him performing in Montana up to this point. Presumably, he must have been there for some reason because, you know, the next song on this album is also about Montana. But I don't know exactly what. I don't know if there's a way of figuring out exactly why or when he was there.
Let's move along to Ringling Ringling.
Ringling Ringling is a song that I didn't like the first time I heard it. I thought it was just very standard, and I grew to like it. Next couple.
Yeah, this is the other hit for me on side A. I really like Ringling Ringling.
Yeah. It's I mean, again, like it's really more of a portrait song of the town because I noticed, you know, like it's sort of similar to Railroad Lady in that it's talking about like, a dying community industry, but it's not really saying more than like, hey, look here, it's dying. It's happening. There was also another through line, which he does actually mention electric trains running past the town. So it is kind of talking a little more about like how the railroads are going in the early 70s, moving along to different business models.
You know, I could not really. It really is very similar to Railroad Lady, and I think it's probably just that it has like it's a little bit more upbeat in terms of instrumentation to it, because like it doesn't have a ton of substance going on. You know, it's a pretty simple portrait piece. The first time I listened to this album, it did not register for me at all.
Well, it's a better chorus, is what or it's got like a better hook with the ringling ringling.
Yeah, but it's just kind of like, I don't know. It's a fun little song about a dying little town, right? Like it doesn't really. Sometimes Jimmy just writes a song that's like, you know, it's not like one of like the big really like heavy hitters. It's just a nice little song, and it doesn't need to be more than that. And that's what Ringling Ringling is. It's just kind of nice. I like it. I don't know. I don't think it's like one of the best songs on the album. I think there's a couple of songs on side B that are definitely like high contenders for best song on the album.
Yeah.
But Ringling Ringling is like it's one of the high points of the album for me for sure.
Just a little update on Ringling, Montana for anyone interested. In the song, Jimmy Buffett mentions there's like 40 people living there. I can't find an exact like census or estimate because it's a really small, obscure town. I've seen it as high as 62 people living there. I've seen it as low as like 19 people living there. So
it's pretty small.
If it's at 62, hey, maybe there's a comeback coming. That's like a 33% increase in the population over the last 50 years.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much more to say about Ringling Ringling. I like the song. It's not very much going on, but I like that song. I like it much more than the song that follows it, which is Brahma Fear.
I didn't connect to Brahma Fear much either.
Here's what I got to say about Brahma Fear. This is a song about being like unadventurous. And I think it is really appropriate that a song about being unadventurous sounds this boring.
Yeah, absolutely. The other part of that is that, like, so I saw the word Brahma Fear, and I'm like, there's going to be some sort of like Eastern mysticism, Orientalism in this song. There's not, because what the connection of Brahma is like, it's very literal. That first line about like he doesn't want to ride a bull at a rodeo, but he wants to, but he doesn't want to, is the most common type of bull that is used as like a bucking bull at a rodeo is a crossbreed between a Brahmin bull with an N on the end and some other type of bull. But they're always So I guess Brahma specifically refers to fear of riding that specific type of bull.
No, I had like looked this up. There is like a Hindu concept of like fear of Brahma, which is almost like sort of like an almost like divine like terror.
Well, yeah, because Brahma is the creator deity in Hinduism.
Yeah, but this song is not about that at all.
No, not at all.
Not like a religious song. This is not like a song about dealing with something awesome in the old sense of the word awesome.
Yeah.
It is literally a song about wanting to do the rodeo and being too scared to grab the whole bull by the horns. Right?
Literally.
Which I guess we could read as like metaphorical, maybe, but I don't think it's metaphorical. I think the song is very literal.
Yeah.
Like,
it's he does mention he owns a boat. It slides across the sea. Some folks say I'm part of it, and I know it's part of me. So there's a bit of sailing in there.
There's a couple of times it comes up on this album. Jimmy is just sort of starting to insert the tropics and like his life in Key West into songs that are not otherwise about the ocean.
Yeah, which is fine at this point because, write what you know. I mean, we know that Jimmy Buffett writes better when he's writing about things he's actually experienced. Cough,
I agree. And
nothing soft about hard times.
Yeah, he's not, and again, like sticking that in, he is not in, again, Tropics Obsessed Lunatic like point yet, right? He's not there. This is still like mostly like it's the Key West phase, but it is not like he is not how he ends up in like the 1990s. We're still a ways away from that. But Brahma Fear inspires very little reaction from me.
This is the song that I also felt like I have the least thoughts about this song.
Yeah, this song wins the Ain't He a Genius Award for this week.
Yeah, with maybe the exception of the song that we've already heard on a different album, but I thought it's a few songs away. But at least I can compare it to the previous recording.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get to it.
The next song, Brand New Country Star.
New Country Star.
So this is co-written with V. Arnold. V. Arnold was Vernon Marshall Arnold, or potentially still is Vernon Marshall Arnold. I don't know. I don't think he's dead yet. I couldn't find an obituary. His only credits on Discogs are this song and a 2019 album called Retrophonic Folkadelic, which is under two different names. One of them is Austin Church, and the other one is Vernon Mars. So I followed that. I found out that Austin Church has a website where he mentions co-writing the song with Jimmy Buffett. So, taking into account the idea that, like, hopefully he's telling the truth, this is a minor detail. He said that he met Jimmy Buffett at the Last Resort Folk Club in Athens, Georgia, and that's where they wrote the song together.
So, this song, I have a lot of thoughts about it, right?
Do you want to know what the first thing I wrote down about this song was?
What?
So, cheeseburgers have always been on Jimmy Buffett's mind.
Yeah, a little bit, right? Like, obviously, because of how much of a smash hit Cheeseburger in Paradise is, that's always going to stand out whenever it comes up, which is not very often. This song, first of all, this is the first of, I think, 3 songs on this album that are just sort of directly, like, shots fired at Nashville, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
This is very much like about pop country, about that sort of easy
listening. Oh, yeah, no, 100%. It's referring to that growing split, which we know which side of for people who haven't listened to previous episodes, go back and listen to the previous episodes. This growing split between the Nashville sound and outlaw country. we know which side he falls on. Because
Jimmy's
he's
firmly in the outlaw country side.
yeah, he's friends with Jerry Jeff Walker. He recorded at Tom Paul Glacier's place. They don't like the slicker, poppier sound of the Nashville sound. You know, your Porter Wagner, Dolly Parton, Charlie Rich, Tammy Wynette, all those. Yeah, we know where he falls, and so it's obvious that like he's saying this like is a derogatory thing, not in just the way that he's written it, which is obvious, but in the way that he's, you know, singing it. There's almost like a bit of like a spit in his voice.
Yeah, like it's weird that like Jimmy writing songs with like a venom to them is a very alien thing to me. Like we talked a little bit about on the first couple of episodes about like socially conscious Jimmy being kind of weird. Venomous Jimmy is like completely antithetical in my brain. Socially conscious Jimmy was weird. This sounds alien. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
It's very strange to me.
So the topical song has not ended here, but I have to say, I think this might be his most effective Jimmy Buffett sounding topical song.
I would agree with that. Like, I don't necessarily hate Brand New Country Star. It's not one of the big hits on the album for me, but I don't hate it.
No, not that. I never thought I'd hear him yodel in a song.
Yeah, that's my second point is why does he yodel a song out? It seems to come out of nowhere. But my third point about this song that I want to bring up, because I don't really have much to say about the yodeling other than like that's kind of an interesting pull, is that this song, which is, you know, kind of about selling out, is kind of ironic considering how marketable Jimmy becomes later in his career.
Yes.
I don't think like I think the thing is that like I don't think Jimmy ever like quote unquote sells out, right? I think he moves in a direction that we're gonna get to it over the course of this podcast, obviously, and we'll probably reference this song as that comes up because like Jimmy does not like go fully into like this sort of pop country mode. He actually does it a little bit on this album, which is a little weird.
Yeah, that's what I find ironic.
But like, it's not necessarily that Jimmy like tries to go in this direction for Nashville on like future albums. It's just that it turns out that Jimmy has a marketable personality as like time progresses.
Yeah, I would agree with that assessment. Yeah, the thing I find most ironic here is that he's got this like very clearly anti-Nashville sound song, like poking fun at it. And yet, you know, he's got a big hit on the album, Come Monday, and it's the Nashville sound.
Definitely Nashville sound. Yeah, it's really...
He's got another Nashville sound song, and it's the song that directly follows this one. And it's a re-recording of a song he's already done in a less Nashville sounding way.
Yeah, so
why?
I don't
Do you have anything more to say about this, or should we move on?
No, let's move on to our first re-record of Livingston's Gone to Texas.
Yes.
This is our first Jimmy Buffett re-record. I kind of think that as a re-recording, he gets a little bit of a pass for this one, because at this point, the masters for High Cumberland Jubilee were still quote-unquote lost.
This is fair, but it also begs the question, did Jimmy Buffett, out of all of those songs that were quote-unquote lost, really think this was the one he needed to re-record?
I guess he really thought he had something with Livingston's Gone to Texas, and obviously, like as we talked about on our episode about a High Cumberland Jubilee, that song, like people think of it as like it becomes one of Jimmy's kind of classics. We don't really think very highly about this song. I think that musically, I prefer this recording a little bit, right?
Really, I dislike hearing the vibes in the background on this song.
The vibes are a real problem for me on this recording. I really like the addition of the steel guitar, though.
That is very true. Is it still Doyle Grisham on the steel guitar? It is still Doyle Grisham.
Yeah, I love that dude.
Good job, Doyle Grisham.
I don't have that much to say about this other than like I can't really tell if I prefer this recording. The vibes really are a problem for me on it. But the other thing I want to say is that listening to this, you were 100% right. The song is about Jimmy trying to woo Livingston's lady. Like,
yeah,
you are correct. Yeah, I didn't pick that up the first go around when we were doing High Cumberland Jubilee. I picked it up this time. That's definitely what's happening.
Yeah, now you get it.
Yeah, I do get it. I don't have much to say about this. I think it's kind of interesting that like he thinks this is the song off of High Cumberland Jubilee that he needed to like bring back. We both talked about how like there's a lot of songs on High Cumberland Jubilee that we like more than this. Like maybe less so for you because I'm higher on that album than you were, and I don't necessarily think all of those songs would have been better bringbacks than Livingston's Gone to Texas. But like I don't know, I guess that like this does become like a classic for him. So I guess maybe he had something going on there, but neither of us really like this song very much.
Yeah, I mean, again, the first time I heard it, it was like it's a normal sentimental esque ballad, and I didn't really connect it to it. But I mean, this time it's just like, okay, now you've actually annoyed me with the instrumentation on this, with the vibes. The other thing is that like it musically it hits a weak point because like this sounds exactly like the type of song he was just making fun of on the last song.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about Livingston's Gone to Texas.
okay, well then I guess
Time to flip the record over.
it's time to flip the record. We'll see you guys on side B. Welcome back to side B, everybody.
Hello.
Tom, the Wino and I Know.
Yes, the side B does start with the Wino and I Know. I don't really know what to make of this song. It's fun. I like the chorus of it.
It's more Dirtbag Buffett because he's talking about like bar brawls and busking. He's going back to his New Orleans pre-fame days.
Yeah,
you know,
it is. It's a fun one. There's not like
I actually like the song a lot.
Yeah, I like it musically. It kind of strikes me as not having it's sort of similar to me to Ringling Ringling, where like the substance doesn't strike me, but it sounds like maybe like you have more to say about it.
So first of all, I want to say he mentions donuts. It's in the vein of cheeseburgers on Country Star. So, and he also mentions our first non-alcoholic drinks. Non-alcoholic drinks I'm not going to do in boat drinks, but I will mention them as we go on. He mentions coffee and milkshakes. So
that's true. He does.
It's interesting. Yeah. I want to say this and the Wino and I know the pain of back busting, like the farmer knows the pain of his pickup truck rusting. I think this is a more mature version of There's Nothing Soft About Hard Times, where he's gotten to the point where he can be a little more honest about the kind of struggles that he's had. And he says, okay, well, we all have struggles. They're not exactly the same as each other, but they're all sort of analogous and they're all valid, right? So this is the more mature version of that, and that's why I like it so much. Is because it's like he looked at that song and realized I can write a better version of that now because I understand the message I was trying to say. And that's why I like this song.
That does make sense to me, and it kind of makes me like the song a little bit more. Like, trying to make a living busking is not necessarily an easy way to go.
Yeah, it's like he understands that, like, okay, he was doing the starving artist thing for a while, but, you know, There's Nothing Soft About Hard Times was literally like, I went through the worst shit imaginable, and it's like, no, you didn't, Jimmy. You went to a private school.
You did not, Jimmy. And this is much more like, I had my lean times, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think to get there, you have to write songs like Peanut Butter Conspiracy to get to this point. There's Nothing Soft About Hard Times. So I see this as like a through point in the evolution.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think good. I was also thinking about Peanut Butter Conspiracy with this because, like, it's another song about his lean days, but it's like, it's not really supposed to be funny the way that Peanut Butter Conspiracy is. It's a little bit more, like, genuine.
Yeah.
You know, it's not really like, let me make a joke song about petty robbery. It's like, yeah, I had my rough days.
Yeah, that's the thing, is this is an honest song, and I really like it when he writes honestly.
Yeah.
That's what also, we didn't like about There's Nothing Soft About Hard Times, is it wasn't an honest song.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also feel like, you know, this song, again, like the last verse, it kind of feels like the ocean comes back out of nowhere. But it's because, like, you know, his life is starting to become, like, so heavily connected with living in Key West. Like, as a songwriter, he's starting to get, the ocean will eventually, like, completely consume Jimmy's songwriting. It's not quite doing that yet, but he comes back to the ocean because, like, it is something that is, like, a big touch point for him now.
Yeah.
As Key West, I think, is starting to become, like, a point for him of, like, that was who I was, and this is where I'm at now, right? And like, where he's at now is much better. You know, his last album did quite a lot better than his first one did. Obviously, his second one didn't get released.
And he was writing songs about how he was doing much better, like, mentally.
Yeah, it makes sense that, like, writing a song where you reflect about that, you sort of go to where you are now, and that happens to involve the ocean quite a lot for Jimmy.
Okay.
But
yeah, I think I've said all there is that I have to say about the Wino and I Know.
Yeah, I think it's fun.
It's a hit for me on this album, frankly.
I think you've convinced me that I like it because I thought the song was fun, but I didn't really like get the substance to it. But now that it's sort of like started to get there, I think this is a hit for me as well.
I'll say this. I think this is the strength of doing the podcast so far, is that going through, or really just listening and talking about all of Jimmy Buffett's discography. If I listened to this album, hadn't listened to any of the previous three, I probably would not think of this song very much. But hearing everything that's come before it, it makes a lot more sense to me. And that's what makes me, appreciate it more.
Yeah. Let's move on to West Nashville Grand Ballroom Gown.
More vitriol from James Buffett.
More vitriol. I gotta say, I think that like of the three songs on this album that are kind of like taking shots at Nashville, this is my favorite by a long shot.
Yeah, I might agree with that. What's the third one are you putting saxophones in that?
I count saxophones in that, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think saxophones is not pointed at Nashville specifically, but maybe tangentially, I guess.
Yeah, I think saxophones is more sort of general. Like it's not necessarily, but like we'll talk about that when we get to saxophones, I guess. But I think this song is definitely better than Brand New Country Star.
Yeah, it's definitely definitely better than that.
It's got like, this is like a very strong portrait piece. It really evokes Ace to me.
Ace, as in like how long? Oh no, it's
no, like the song
Ace, like the song Ace.
Yeah, like
I'm sorry.
On the second album.
I'm thinking of other music on this podcast, unfortunately.
No. This song evokes Ace to me in that like it's kind of a strong portrait piece where like, you don't really need it really gives you as much as you need to get a strong portrait of this woman.
Yeah. There's so many interesting ones there because there's also some vagaries, right, in the way that it's presented, which gives a little mystery to it. Like, 22 years in society's plans was canceled in the swing of her dear mother's hand. Is that metaphorically meant to be she got slapped by her mother? Or is it metaphorical because the two lines previous is like, well, all of the love went to her sister, like all of the love and support went to her other sister. So maybe it's like more of a metaphorical slap in the face, like I don't care about you as much as your sister sort of a thing.
Yeah, I think you can read it either way, as like either like I read it as like potentially like she was slapped by her mother publicly, right? That would destroy your chance of being like a high society person because that's like supremely embarrassing, right? But also just sort of like
it's got this Southern Gothic feel to it too, because obviously they're talking about like a debutante's ball sort of a thing.
Definitely. But I also think about like having like the power to like say so much with like the wave of a hand, right? Is like a very like high society secret meanings like thing of like, oh, there's all these secret rules and like, my mother could just like basically ostracize me with a wave of her hand. I like the song, it's got like I like the like waltz cadence to it of being in 3/4 time.
I'm appreciative of that he actually did a 3/4 time song on this album because it's just the only one. There are two things that I really like in terms of like lyrical wordplay that songwriters will do. I really like sort of vague stanza endings, leaving like a little room to breathe where you can think about it while the song is still going, about like what that means. The other thing I really like is double entendres in music, and I don't have much money, but I still get around is definitely a double entendre.
Yeah, definitely.
Which it's so great, just like as like almost like a punchline to the entire song, because you're supposed to be this prim and proper young lady, and then I don't have much money, but I still get around.
Yeah, I think that like it's a really strong like ending is like both like it's a punchline to the song, but it's also like a genuine like you can imagine a high society Nashville mother reading that and being completely aghast.
Yeah, but right? Then even more aghast at the real punchline of the song, which is Jimmy Buffett says "fuck" in a song.
Jimmy Buffett does say "fuck." Just like that's great. I love the last verse of it, the song, so much of like, fuck all those West Nashville Grand Ballroom gowns.
Yep.
I love, I haven't been to church in so many weeks.
I haven't made church in 36 Sundays.
Yeah, I love that. Like, I don't know. It's like it's really effective. Like the notion of like, it's too close to Nashville for me. Can you mail this from there so she doesn't know where I am?
No, because it is so like vitriolic, that note, because it's I'm fine if you happen to wonder, and then 3 just like 1-2 punch, like I don't have money but I still get around, the I'm sleeping around thing. Maybe I haven't made church. Oh, controversial. Fuck all those West Nashville Grand Ballroom gowns. It's the classic, like like hippie girl runs away from the family during the summer love and then writes
it's
back.
Also like, so like I've talked a little bit about, I don't remember if I've mentioned this on the podcast, but like a lot of like the Jimmy songs that I like are not necessarily about songs about being by the sea, but about being like driven to the ocean by like, mistreatment or various other circumstances. And this has like a bit of that, because it's like, obviously, like, yeah, she runs away, but also it's very clear from like the text of the song that like she was driven away from Nashville by her mother.
Yeah, of course they're not going to this. I mean, who knows where she's going? But, like, they went to Cincinnati.
Yeah, they went to Cincinnati, which was too close to Nashville for her. But that is like, it still evokes that of being driven away to somewhere. Yeah. And that is just something that I really like in Jimmy's writing, and it's here.
I think if this were a Jimmy Buffett song of like 8 or 10 years later, instead of Cincinnati, it would have been like Miami. And then she would have been like, no, that's too close. And then it would have ended with them sailing out into the sunset.
Probably. I like this better.
Yeah.
I like getting off in Cincinnati and giving a note and saying, mail this somewhere in Nashville.
I thought this was like an averagely good song on this album until we started talking about it. I do actually start thinking this might be one of my top hits on the album now.
It's definitely, like, I think my 2 favorite songs on this album. I like a number of these songs on this album. Obviously, I'm higher on Come Monday than you are. But I think, like, my 2 favorite songs on this album, the 2 big hits for me, are this and The Closer, which we'll get to.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to my favorite yet.
I have a suspicion what your favorite is.
So saxophones.
Well, this is the last song on this album written by Jimmy. There's 2 more songs on it, but they're both covers.
Yep.
This is also, I think, we talked a little bit about this. I think this is the 3rd song on the album about Jimmy having like a chip on his shoulder regarding Nashville. Yeah, but more so just sort of like,
he's definitely got a grudge. It's specific. He name checks specifically a Mobile DJ, not playing it in his hometown. I do think that the Mobile DJ is probably a stand-in more so for the entire record industry. Because, again,
I was thinking about country music establishment.
Yeah, he has a big album in Whitesburg. It is his breakthrough album, but he doesn't have a huge hit on it. And so after a while, you kind of, the airplay goes away.
Yeah, this is a very ironic song in like considering that like the big hit off this album is the one that is mostly Nashville sound.
Yeah.
Like that is ironic. And he does have a big hit on this album.
Yeah. So I do really like the fact that for the most part of the song, there are no saxophones. And that is what he's singing about. Especially after he says, I wish I had a saxophone cleaning up the muddy breaks. And then there's just like almost silence when it's just like the bass doing the break. It's kind of meta funny. I really like it.
Yeah. It's honestly like, I didn't love this song, but I feel like it's clever.
I think it would have been better without the horns at the end. If there were 0 saxophones on it. So there's a single version that was put out. The single version of this, because this was one of the singles from the album, I think it was like 105 on the Bubbling Under chart. There is a single version that has backing vocals during the chorus, and it actually has saxophones during the chorus as well, including cleaning up the muddy breaks. There's the bass break, and then right in the last second of the bass break, there's a single note from baritone saxophone. I really dislike that.
Yeah,
I think it's funny that somebody was like, "Well, wait till the very last second," so people were like, "They're not going to put this in," and then we put it in. But I think don't do that. There is another a re-recording of this song that's going to come up on the 2003 compilation "Meet Me in Margaritaville." I haven't heard that one yet.
I think that's probably going to rub me the wrong way if I had to guess.
We'll see. So we got that to look forward to or dread.
Yeah, this song, I think like, I don't know. There's like, it's clever. In my notes, I said that I think I like it a little bit less than Brand New Country Star. I think thinking about it, I think I probably like it more.
Yeah, I like this more than Brand New Country Star.
But my last note about this album, I don't have about this song specifically. I don't have that much to say about it. Is that I think one of the problems with having saxophones on it is I do not think Jimmy's voice sounds great with horns.
No.
There's a band that I love a lot that I think I've tried to get you to listen to a couple times, which is a ska band called Streetlight Manifesto.
They're
kind of punky. The way that they incorporate horns into their music is sort of incredible. It is literally like their horn section is singing a duet with the band's frontman Thomas Kalnaki, and I think that like he has like this very like it's a very punk voice, right? He's like kind of shouting things. His voice is really raspy, but it ends up working out really, really well. I think that like the way that music incorporates horns is incredible. And I think the way that Jimmy's voice works with horns is like oil and water. It is not good.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about how many other songs I remember that have horns on. He had a saxophonist in his touring band for a while, so we might hear that on one of the live albums. But I'm trying to think about how many other. I'm trying to think about how many other studio songs I've heard with saxophones on them. I'm blanking on them, but yeah, I think it's good that he didn't do more.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it is because like he's mentioning, like essentially stuff that's based in New Orleans jazz, Dr. John and such at the beginning of the song. Saxophones are pretty common in that. And I'm a big fan of Dr. John.
I'm not familiar, but I as a banjo player myself, I'm somewhat familiar with New Orleans jazz.
Yeah.
And saxophones are obviously pretty big in that in general.
Yeah. Well, horns in general. Yeah, that's what I got to say about saxophones. Okay, The Ballad of Spider John. So this one's a cover.
Yeah.
Let's try to do the whole thing in sync.
I think we probably failed. But this one's a cover. The song is by Willis Allen Ramsey.
Yeah, his other claim. Well, I think his bigger claim to fame is he wrote Muskrat Love, which was a Captain and Tennille hit.
Yeah. Fun fact, I share a birthday with Willis Allen Ramsey.
Oh, very fun. Very fun.
Yeah. Yeah, but this is an interesting song. Is this our first cover? I think it is.
Yes, I believe so. I have a question for you about the covers. Do you go on at least, songs you're perhaps not familiar with the original version of? I doubt we'll be doing this when we get to like Brown Eyed Girl or Uncle John's Band. Do you go and listen to the original version?
I didn't do it for this one, but I think
I did for both of these
album because it seems really interesting.
Yeah. So I have to say, I really like this song. It might be my favorite song on the album.
I think I kind of agree with that take. I don't know if it is. I think I probably like West Nashville Grand Ballroom Gown and the closing track God's I'm Drunk a little bit more. But I think this is definitely like this backside of the album is much better than the A side, I think. In general.
There's something just kind of like noirish, like bluesy in like the pre-chorus, I was a supermarket fool part, in the way that the piano and the lead guitar are playing. And
no, it's really interesting.
Yeah, no, and it is like it's a callback to that like earlier folk period because it is sort of, it's a ballad in like the verse thing, but it clips along at a good pace, and I think it's different it's different in the sound than like anything else on this album, but a bit different than anything Jimmy Buffett's done because he hasn't really done anything bluesy, which I think it actually works quite well for his voice. We can contrast that with the fact that we were just talking about how in saxophones, Jimmy Buffett's voice doesn't really mesh well with saxophones.
I mean, I think that like, I'm not really somebody to say that like, I think that anybody has like a kind of song that fits with their voice, right?
Yeah.
That said, I think we're both on the same standpoint that like in classical terms, Jimmy's not like a fantastic singer.
Yeah.
I think he's a fine singer. I don't think he's a fantastic singer. And blues happens to be a genre that's pretty good for like not classically great singers.
Yes, exactly. And in a way, country also does that, and folk, of course.
All three of those are good for that. And so this is kind of like just a really good song for his voice.
Yeah.
I guess this album is like kind of like a important one, sort of just sort of historically. I mean, obviously, like he wrote Muskrat Love, right? Like,
Yeah.
but like it's interesting because like it seems like that was like his only solo album.
Yeah,
And
I have
it's
to say,
like-
I haven't listened to anything else other than his version of this song.
So tell
but
me
I do want to
about his
hear
version of this song.
Okay, so his version of the song. So Ramsey's got like a more like traditional, like grizzled country voice, right?
Yeah.
He's in that like outlaw country genre, I think. So he's got a lot more instrumentation. So he's got accordion in the song. I think that works really well at the beginning. He's got some strings, not like Nashville sound strings, but more like almost kind of like spooky strings, because there is that part of the song that's like, because of the, crime being committed in the ballad and everything. There is that bit of like a spooky vibe. There is a saxophone towards the end of the song. And then during that, like, I was a supermarket fool part, the guitar is more distorted. He's got more like effects on it.
I'm definitely going to have to check this out because I think this is like I think this is a deeply interesting song.
I think I like Ramsey's version more than Jimmy Buffett's version, but I really like I really like the way that Jimmy Buffett like vibed with this song. I think he does a really good version.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's an interesting song that's sort of like about regret. It sort of has that like obviously like in terms of like being like an outsider to Nashville, this album is like a very outlaw country album. But this is like, this kind of brings back like there was a couple of songs on the last album that had like the sort of like criminal, like outlaw aspect to that songwriting. And this album doesn't really have much of that, but this has that to it. And so it's kind of nice for that to sort of be brought back in, even if Jimmy didn't write it himself.
Yeah, which at least can tell you that like, there are some artists out here, I don't think it applies to Jimmy Buffett, but there are some artists out there that you think they're terrible songwriters. But all of their covers are really good, and what that tells you is that at least, like, maybe they can't write good music, but they know good music, they can pick it out.
Yeah.
And here's Jimmy Buffett. He's knocking it out of the park on the very first song that he didn't write, that he pulls out. Like, it's a fantastic song. It's also not like, he's not doing like, like like a Teach Your Children or something, like something that was a big hit at the time that's sort of in the genre or something. He's saying this is, an obscure song by a guy who like, maybe he knew him, maybe he didn't. Like, it's obvious that they sort of ran in the same circles because it's the same time period and roughly the same place, and they're playing roughly the same genre. But
so I kind of suspect that Jimmy probably was like somewhat acquainted because he has two covers on this album, and one of them he gets into big legal trouble with. And this is not the song.
That has to do with more the credit to who wrote the song.
Yeah, that's very true. And also, like, it has like a really effective kind of like, it's like it's got that like regret, like a sinner knows he's done wrong kind of stuff. And I always love that sort of notion. Jimmy has a lot of songs that are like that, but they're not usually about somebody doing something as dark as Spider John does in this song. Yeah.
And then of course there is the part where he's talking about like Spider John is doing this in part because like it's the way he had to fend for himself. Like there is an element of he is talking about something that is kind of similar to what Jimmy Buffett talks about like in his Dirtbag Hooligan stuff, or about like this is kind of what we had to do to survive, right?
Yeah.
It's coming from that perspective a bit, obviously. Like I don't think you need to do all of the things that Spider John was doing just to survive. But
I think that like there's that, but there is also a regret that like that happened. But I think it's a good song. But I do think you've got a point that like even if Jimmy didn't write this, the fact that he chose this is interesting. Like Jimmy, like we've talked about this, like he has his talents as a songwriter. He also has like some bad tendencies as a songwriter, but he does have a good ear for music.
Yeah,
he can pick out music that's high quality, and he does it pretty regularly. I think with his covers, even if I don't think some of those covers are very good, this one I think is good.
I think it's like it's the first song that I'm sitting here thinking like sonically for a Jimmy Buffett song, I could listen to this for like an hour straight and not grow bored of it.
Yeah, it's
He
It's
tends
interesting
to
'cause,
do that towards the end of his albums. He tends to get weird, like different, and it works really well most of the time.
We've talked about it a couple of times. So I got really into a little earlier in the year the experimental hip hop group Clipping, and there was a few albums where Clipping would do this sort of thing where they would finish an album with like a big avant-garde piece. Their sort of duology of horrorcore albums from 2020 and 2021, or I think maybe it's 2019 and 2020. I'm not sure, but they both do that. So one of them is a recording of Andrea Lockwood's Piano Burning, and the second one ends with a recording of Yoko Ono's Secret Piece.
Okay.
Which is Piano Burning is literally a piano on fire, and Secret Piece is a single note played accompanied by the sounds of a woodland trail at like between 3 and 5 a.m., which is a very Yoko Ono thing.
Yeah. Very Yoko Ono.
Very Yoko Ono, very avant-garde. This is not like Jimmy does not go in avant-garde directions.
Yeah, well, I think the most avant-garde he gets is on the next song.
I think so. But I think that like I like him ending these albums with these sort of weird cuts. Although I will say I think that my favorite of his album closures so far has been like kind of the most normal song he's written of these, which was the last one, Death of an Unpopular Poet.
Yeah.
I think I like that a little bit more than either of these two covers, but I think these two covers are really interesting and fun to listen to.
So,
should we move on to talking about God's Own Drunk?
God's Own Drunk.
I kind of think this song rules.
Oh, this song does rule. So, Lord Buckley. I should say the reason this is kind of an avant-garde song is Lord Buckley is this kind of like semi-vaudevillian, semi-rambunctious proto-beatnik comedian who, like, he's mostly a comedian and he does some comedy bits in like a musical style. This is one of them, but his recording, it's very sparse on instrumentation. And the way he delivers it is like putting on the persona of this grizzled old country boy with like a big drawl. And which is kind of funny because like Lord Buckley's normal voice is like almost kind of like not Boston Brahmin, but it's got that sort of like Britishy sounding like posher New England voice.
I think that's interesting, and it makes me think that like I mean you listened to both recordings. Yeah. My suspicion is that Jimmy's recording is much better.
I like this one better. Frankly, because like I can suspend my belief to think, and maybe this is different if I was more familiar with Lord Buckley. I can suspend my disbelief long enough to believe that Jimmy Buffett is not putting on a character in this song, and this is actually something that happened to him, more than I can Lord Buckley putting on a voice and pretending this is a thing that happened to him.
I think both of these covers, but I think this one especially for me is one where like, we've talked a little bit about how both of the two albums we've covered so far into Jimmy's Key West phase, like Jimmy is very well served by the Coral Reefer Band, right? And I think that this song, that's certainly true. The backing instrumentation on this is really quite excellent. I think it's part
weird.
Of what
it's very jazzy, isn't it?
It's very jazzy and sparse, which I think does make it feel a little avant-garde. Or it's a little weird, right? But I actually do think that it's Jimmy's performance in this that makes this for me.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
He's honestly really good, and it's like there's part of me that makes me. I kind of wish Jimmy did more of these sort of comedic talking songs later in his life. And then I think about how Jimmy sort of becomes as a songwriter later in his life, and I'm like, that would be extremely obnoxious.
Yeah, exactly. So
he's really good here.
According to Buffett and a few things, the first time he heard God's Own Drunk, the Lord Buckley recording, was 1966. So for 8 years, this has been rolling around in his head. And so I think that's part of why it like conforms so much to the idea of like, this is really like, this sounds more like it'd be a Jimmy Buffett thing than a Lord Buckley thing, even though Lord Buckley was the guy who wrote the thing. Because it's been in Jimmy Buffett's mind for so long.
It's been in Jimmy Buffett's mind his entire musical career. Like, this is probably like a very...
It's been in Jimmy Buffett's own mind longer than all of the songs he's written.
This is like foundational material for Jimmy.
Yeah.
And so it kind of makes sense that like the entire thing, like it does like feel like he's almost built to perform this. And he's real good at it.
Do have what is hopefully good news for you, which is that we are going to, in the late 70s, hear a live version of this song.
I think that is,
and
good
it
news.
is 11 minutes long.
Oh fuck yeah! Like, I'm in general, listeners, and especially parrot heads who might be listening to this, I'm sorry about this. I am kind of dreading a lot of like listening to the live recordings that we're gonna do over the course of this project. But like that specifically, I'm really, really interested in.
Yeah, because it's very clear that Jimmy Buffett has a lot of respect for the monologue.
Yeah,
right?
it's so like there's a couple of.
Yeah.
Sorry, you go.
Okay. So the other thing that I think makes the song is all of the laughter in the background while he's performing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, you know, Buckley's performing it live in his version, and you hear laughter from the audience, but it's like, you know, it's laughter from the audience. He's there doing a comedy routine. This helps to sell the idea that it's just a bunch of drunk idiots fucking around in the studio.
Yeah, definitely.
Like the idea that like it's like it makes you think like it's very possible that Jimmy Buffett just walked up to the microphone after they were done, started saying this, and the session musicians were just like, "Oh shit, like let's just try and figure out something along the way to go with this."
There's part of it that feels really improvised.
Yeah.
And in that way kind of jazzy, but like
even though it's not, well, the music might be. I don't think the music isn't.
Obviously, Gods of Drunk itself is like not improvised at all.
Yeah, the only thing the only thing that Lord Buckley wrote, I believe, were specifically the words. I don't know if he composed the music. He's the only one credited as writing the song or writing the monologue. But again, he, you know, the music in Lord Buckley's version, much sparser, really different. So I do kind of think that the music is probably like improvised as a group thing in the studio.
It kind of feels like that. I'm really kind of enchanted by this one. Like I think this is my favorite recording on the album.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's like it is funny. It's a pretty good pick by Buffett for a cover because again, I think that like he's built really well to record this, and his performance of it is really excellent.
Yeah, again, this is just like the last song. He's really inhabiting the spirit of both of these songs.
Yeah, he's
2 for 2 on the covers, like just knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, I think I mentioned on the last album that like we talked about sort of his cover of Brown Eyed Girl on a later album being like the moment where this podcast became inevitable. Just sort of because like that cover feels like Jimmy sort of overwriting Van Morrison, which is, you know, Van Morrison's kind of an odious figure, but also I think his performance of Brown Eyed Girl is better as a result. But this is really Jimmy trying to perform these songs sort of through the song, not really hit through himself.
Yeah, because
that makes the covers really good.
Because if somebody said, imagine if Jimmy Buffett performed Brown Eyed Girl, your immediate first thought is, well, the riff is going to be just a steel drum. And then you listen to it and the riff is just a steel drum. If somebody said, imagine Jimmy Buffett performing, you know, a comedic monologue from the 1950s about drinking, you know, whiskey with a bear, I'm thinking, I don't know. Yeah, it's Jimmy Buffett, probably some steel drums. And then you get whatever you're thinking, you're not thinking this unless you've heard it already. You're not thinking, oh, well, it's like a jazzy improvisation a la, you know, bebop, and then he's just up there, you know, rapping in his hick voice about you know, loving all the bears, and the bear's 19 feet tall, got a 27-acre body. I love every hair on you, or something.
Yeah,
no, he comes right out of left field. I do love this one.
It's, you know, it's interesting because like I think that like over the next couple of albums and like his Key West phase, he kind of like stops doing these sort of out of left field tracks. The last song on his next album, A1A, happens to be one of my favorite Jimmy Buffett songs, but it's not really, you know, it is very much in his oeuvre. It's not really out of left field.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a shame because this stuff is really interesting when he records it. I'm interested to see if he goes back and does more of this sort of ending the album with like a weird sort of curveball, but I kind of suspect that this is probably one of the last curveballs that we're going to hear from him for a long time.
If we are, at least we're ending on a high note, because I think this is his. It's either this one or Death of an Unpopular Poet is the best out of all of his weird closers.
Generally speaking, like, I'm much higher on Coming Down Slow, High Cumberland Jubilee than you are, but I don't know. I kind of like I connect a lot with all of these like sort of closing tracks that are out of nowhere.
Yeah, I like it when artists end the album just by saying like, yeah, no, what, screw it, we're just gonna do whatever the hell I want to do in the moment, and that's what all of these feel like.
Shit, yeah.
There is actually one more thing we should talk about with God's Own Drunk, though. So, God's Own Drunk, of course, had a major legal issue.
It had a big stink.
1980 or something, because Lord Buckley's son found out that he was performing this and sued him for copyright infringement because, number one, Jimmy Buffett didn't give him the writing credit originally, and I guess the other part of that was like because he stopped performing it at his concerts, and I don't know whether that was part of the lawsuit or whether that was Jimmy Buffett just being like, okay, well, fuck you, because what he does is he replaces it with like a 90-second song that he called "The Lawyer and the Asshole," where he's just like, this lawyer and this asshole from California said I couldn't play this song anymore. Like, that's what he replaces it with. I'm not entirely certain whether he actually has to be forced to stop playing it, because usually artists have pretty free reign to perform songs at concerts.
Yeah.
Especially if they're not being recorded, because then they don't need to pay royalties.
I do kind of feel like, I don't know, like this album and things connected with it are bringing out sort of a weirdly vindictive streak in Jimmy that I think is
we'll get to
really
this.
Strange.
So I think part of this stems from the fact that God's Own Drunk is not primarily a song. It's a comedic monologue. And so I think the copyright infringement probably stems from Buckley saying this is Buckley's material, and as a comedian, you can't just steal people's jokes, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Like Carlos Mencia was getting into trouble with this like 15 years ago, right?
Yeah, that's a true statement. I don't know if any of the live albums we are going to get to later on are on they have this on them. I wouldn't be shocked to see it, but I'll be interested to see like sort of how we get there, or if there's a recorded version of Lawyer and the Asshole on any of those. We'll have to talk about this. But
I don't think so. I think I went looking for it, and all I could find was like a crappy like bootleg recording of it. So I don't think it is on an album.
Let's do some segments really quick.
Huh? Yes, exactly. Oh wait, hold on. One more thing before we get into the segments, but this is a segue into it. Is another honorable mention, but not a boat drink. Sarsaparilla was mentioned in God's Own Drunk. I do find it ironic that all of the non-alcoholic beverages on here, coffee, milkshakes, and sarsaparilla, were mentioned on the most alcoholic-friendly songs. The Wino and I Know and God's Own Drunk.
I mean, because God's Own Drunk is like a very whiskey-heavy song primarily.
Yeah. All right, boat drinks.
Boat drinks. I think I got boat drink fever. Beatrice, I drink 6 more boat drinks. 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 Somebody sound the alarm.
So, we got beer cans. Ringling, 27 years of beer. We've got a mention of drinking whiskey on Brahma Fear. We've got wine, of course, right in the title, and the Wino and I Know. The whiskey still in God's Own Drunk, they were drinking whiskey or honeydew vine water, but I've all categorized it under whiskey here.
I was going to say a lot more whiskey references, or a lot fewer like drinking references in general on this album than on the last.
Yep.
But also, like, I think interestingly, like, this album is a very whiskey heavy album.
Yeah.
And I think that's not necessarily, like, obviously he didn't write God's Own Drunk. But it's interesting that like this is a very whiskey heavy album and also like kind of a weirdly vindictive album. Like,
yeah. Yeah, 50% of the boat drinks here were whiskey. So I got some honorable mentions to Lion in Pencil Thin Mustache, drinking on a fake ID, talks about underage drinking. And then saxophones talk about getting drunk in a bar. Neither of them mention drinks specifically, but those are the honorable mentions. So our running total here, across 4 Jimmy Buffett albums, he's averaged 1 mention each of beer and whiskey because he's got 4 mentions of both. 3 mentions of wine, 1 mention of gin, and 1 mention of tequila. There's boat drinks.
Yeah, it's interesting that like the last album was like very beer heavy, I think.
Yeah. 3 out of our 4 came from the last album.
Yeah, and this album's whiskey heavy. I don't know. It's interesting.
He's had a mention of whiskey. Oh no, because one of them was from his first album, actually.
Yeah. Let's get into Steel Drum Watch a little bit.
He went Jimmy, looking for steel drums, bothering him so. Well, steel drum killed his lady, left him with only one question. Which way do I steer for my steel drums?
So the B-side of this album has a lot less like Caribbean instrumentation in it, I think, than the A-side.
Yeah.
The A-side has this is not really like a super nautical themed album from Jimmy, right? Like there's nautical references because he lives in Key West now, but at this point in time when he was recording this, generally speaking, this is not like next album is a nautical ass album. This is not a nautical album, but like we also see on the A side, especially, we see a lot of Caribbean instrumentation just kind of show up. We see vibes on both Livingston's Come to Texas and Come Monday. It just kind of like shows up for not really very specific reasons. It's again, he's not really in like full like quote unquote tropics obsessed lunatic mode, as the yacht rock will later dub him. But
we're just gonna keep referencing that, aren't we? I hope somebody shares this with the yacht rock guys because they got their own podcast.
I mean, eventually he is just going. I mean, that's the thing is that like he is not a tropics obsessed lunatic yet. He does eventually become a tropics obsessed lunatic, right?
Yep.
Like
yes, indeed.
That is eventually becomes an apt description of Jimmy.
I have a question. Right, so we're on Steel Drum Watch right now. We haven't had a steel drum. Once we have a steel drum, are we going to be switching the title segment from Steel Drum Watch to Steel Panic?
Maybe, I don't know. I haven't thought too hard about it, to be honest. I just think it's interesting.
I just came up with that
like,
pun right now.
I kind of think that if that like once we get into the albums where like the steel drums become, for lack of a better term, endemic in Jimmy's music, I think maybe like we phase out this segment because I think it'll be less interesting when we're just like, yeah, of course he had steel drums on this one. He's had them on the last 20 albums. Like I think it'll be less interesting then. But like for right now, it's interesting to note that like Caribbean instrumentation is starting to sneak in. It is not like on all of his music yet,
right?
But it is starting to sneak in on not necessarily like nautical themed songs.
Yeah. So the next album is supposed to be nautical themed, you say?
A1A is like,
I think you probably listened to more of it than I have because all I know is A Pirate Looks at 40.
Yeah, next album has one of my favorite Jimmy Buffett songs on it, which is its closing track, Tin Cup Chalice. It also has A Pirate Looks at 40, obviously. It is like, it's not totally nautical themed, but like it is getting more into it, especially the B-side. Like you just look at like it's got Pirate Looks at 40, it's got Trying to Reason with Hurricane Season, Nautical Wheelers, and Tin Cup Chalice.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah,
Trying to Reason with Hurricane Season. That sounds like it sounds like he's getting Key Westy.
Yeah, he is starting to get more into the tropics on the next one, but he's not quite there yet. Really quick though, let's talk more about Living and Dying in 3/4 Time. I like this album. I do think it's generally a worse album than White Sport Coat and a Pink Crustacean.
I think it is a weaker effort only because I think it's less consistent because I'm trying to think it was really like Railroad Lady, Peanut Butter Conspiracy, Cuban Crime of Passion were like the low 3, and none of those were actually particularly low for us.
Yeah,
like there were some issues with a couple of them.
You really dislike Why Don't We Get Drunk? off of the last album.
Oh, right. Yeah, that is a point. That is a good point.
That's a low point for you. I'm still kind of okay with it. I imagine like almost as soon as I start hearing live recordings of it, I'm gonna go against that song.
Yeah.
But like this one is like, I think the thing about it for me is that it's not necessarily that it's like a much weaker effort than the last album, because I think like some of its highs, like it doesn't quite reach the highs of the last album, but like it has like a lot of songs that I think are quite good on it.
I think there's a lot of songs here that are just about as good as each other, but none of them are as good as the best on the next or on the last.
I would agree
album.
with that. I also just kind of think there's a lot of songs on this album that I think are really uninteresting, especially on the A side.
So I mean, Pencil Thin Mustache, I genuinely dislike. Brahma Fear, I find uninteresting. Brand New Country Star is a little weak, and then Livingston's Gone to Texas, I don't even think about it as being like this album, because we've heard it before, and I thought of I don't think more of it than I did the last time I heard it.
I think that's fair. I think that you do have to keep in mind that like this is the first time that people heard Livingston's Gone to Texas.
Yeah,
like there's a solid chance that Jimmy was performing it in his live sets at the time. I don't really know. The fact that he re-recorded it for this album, thinking like this is the thing that people need to hear from High Cumberland Jubilee, does sort of point in that direction.
Yeah, which again, you know, it's like, hey, Jimmy's good at picking cover songs. Maybe he's not good about re-recording his own songs. Because honestly, I think he should. If he was going to do one, I think maybe. I mean, but then again, like we did talk about like last time that like Ace is kind of superseded for me by He Went to Paris, so I wouldn't see much of a reason to re-record that. So yeah, maybe Livingston's Gone to Texas is the right choice in terms of like what he could have probably actually made better. But I don't think he did do that.
I mentioned, I want to say this, listeners, I mentioned on our episode on High Cumberland Jubilee that, well, we mentioned that we thought In the Shelter was a really weird, like, left field hook from Jimmy. He re-records it on Changes in Latitude. I'm sure it makes us sound like real idiots to parrot heads. But, like, so that's a little bit weird. I think that's probably a better pull. I don't know if I think that would have been better on this album, though. I think it's a better song than Livingston's Gone to Texas. No, but I don't know if that would have been better for this album. I'm
looking back at it, and I think the best one for this album probably would have been Bend a Little.
You know, it probably would have been, but also like because it would have been weird, because you're not wrong, but also like this is like we've mentioned a couple of times, like Jimmy's kind of like got a chip on his shoulder on this album.
Right.
That would have been a kind of weird song to have on this one.
Then Death Valley Lives, I would think.
Death Valley Lives would have been fun though. I love Death Valley Lives.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I don't know. I think this album's fine.
Yeah, no, I find it's definitely, I mean, it's definitely stronger overall than I really like the first album. I'm okay on High Cumberland Jubilee. It's safe to say both of these are stronger than both of those Barnaby Records albums.
I think so. I mean,
and it's because he's a more mature singer-songwriter by this point.
He's a more mature singer-songwriter.
He's in a better place mentally.
He's in a better place mentally. And the Coral Reefer Band is like...
We say that, but he is so mean on this album.
He's very mean on this album. I think that, like, he's in a better place mentally. You know, he's a more mature singer-songwriter. He has, like, a consistent group of collaborators in the Coral Reefer Band that he seems to vibe with really, really well. Generally speaking, I think this is, like, probably better than those first two albums, even though I think those first two albums are really interesting. We are kind of firmly into Jimmy Buffett's, like, you know, he's doing good music. Like, he's still doing like a lot of kind of like not great music, but I think he's doing good music right now.
Yeah, I'm excited for the next album, since that's where these last two in the Key West phase have been.
Yeah, I think this is gonna piss off parrot heads. The next album is like the first in what I have in the past referred to as Jimmy Buffett's quote unquote good era, which I don't think is necessarily fair now that I've heard White Sport Coat and the Pink Crustacean. I think that's a very good album. Our next three are A1A, Havana Daydreamin', and Changes in Latitudes. And these are kind of like, I think, like the real high points of Jimmy's career, like the next three albums, before he sort of starts to devolve into like a real, like into kitsch, right? On Son of a Sailor.
Yeah, there's going to be some interesting discussions about where he's going with the next 3 after that.
Yeah, but I think that the next 3 albums are quite good generally, so it'll be exciting to get into that.
So that's going to be it for Dischoreography Wasting Away 2026 this week. We will see you guys next week when we are discussing A1A from 1974. We'll see you then. But for now, I've been Kyle.
I'm Tom.
We'll see you guys next time.
Wasting away again, away again. Wasting away again, away again. Wasting away again, away again. And Margarita the Bell. It's my own damn fault.